Yo, what's going on? Figured I'd hop on a little bit early today for fun. Maybe it'll give us an opportunity to talk about the short this morning so I can kind of give you guys my thoughts on it because I've gotten a lot of questions about it. I had somebody DM me asking about the 1/2 minute short we're in the process of potentially getting where we've swept this high, gotten this manipulation like here, and now we're kind of seeing a sell off just a little bit. For me, it's always going to retain the same four pieces, with bias always becoming the first component there that is necessary for every single funded trade. So we don't really have good momentum. We're not in a macro, and like it's not a super V-shaped setup, so I just wouldn't take this. It definitely could work to like this unfilled 5 minute gap here, but I honestly wouldn't expect it to go further than that. And just because it's missing those two components, momentum and time, I think it's a lower probability setup than if we wait for a combination of some two of these and then bias as well. Wasn't it first inversion after impulse? Got confused because of that. Thanks for the explanation. Yeah, for sure. So I'm just watching this short play out here. And then, yeah, I'll talk about the short this morning and why it was, in my opinion, pretty good. So, singular for value gap, swept liquidity, right? Tapped into this unfilled 4 hour here. I was not married to the 4 hour BPR here. I could have seen a rejection from either because whenever you see two fair value gaps in the same leg, you can kind of combine them. So, in a way, this was us tapping into the 4 hour. And if we look at 50% of this range here, you can see that price came up and has now tapped that 50% level. It wasn't hit before, so maybe that might have prevented you from taking the trade, but I mean, I'm not going to be married to a 50% level when we get this soup reaction in hindsight. And so when I saw this 1 minute inverse this morning, what I saw was on the 5 minute time frame, we had this unfilled obvious gap, right? And so price is going to want to go from inefficiency to inefficiency. So when price fills in the inefficient 4 hour bearish for value gap there, and then we form this unfilled 5 minute below, and we get this reaction to the 4 hour. In my mind, I don't even necessarily have to wait for a manipulation leg here because the only time we're waiting for that manipulation leg is if it makes sense to see a full-on bearish reversal, like that smart money reversal. And if like we're trading into a bunch of bullish for value gaps, that would be like a roadblock for price, okay? So like, I'll try and find an example of what I'm talking about, but like, okay, this is a good example. So if we go into replay mode here and we look at this reversal that we're actually, let me go back again. If we go into replay mode here and we look at this reversal that we got from Friday, you can see here that when we reverse, we're trading into a bunch of bearish fair value gaps, right? And so we have all these roadblocks that could reject price. And so here it makes sense to get that additional manipulation leg before that reversal, because when we eventually do get the inverse on whatever time frame, the 2 minute here, there's no roadblocks immediately to the left here, right? And so ideally, price should just go to the next obvious target after the inverse. When we get the inverse here on the 1 minute or whatever it was to go up, there's a bunch of roadblocks that could send price down at any time. So when we get it here, there's no roadblock here, right? And so we just expect price to go to that next high inside the fair value gap, that next liquidity point, right? And so here it makes sense to get that manipulation leg before the reversal after a massive dump. If we go back to today's trade, we can see that when we got the inverse, there was no roadblock stopping price from going to that next low, that next break-even point, being that 5 minute gap. And so we can enter the trade assuming that we would get a retracement, because if you look at 50% here of the up move, 50% kind of aligns with that unfilled 1 minute gap down here and whatever. So we expect a retracement to then maybe see price go higher before 10 o'clock. We hit the 4-hour BPR and then we get a reversal around 10. Obviously, that's not what happened. But this is what I'm going to do in this trade. Even before the trade forms, I'm going to be watching to see those reactions to 50%. And if we get a bullish reaction to 50 and we start violating bearish PD arrays to the upside, specifically the one I was looking at was this 1 minute, then obviously we can assume that we're going to go for that next 4-hour BPR. If price doesn't violate this 1 minute and we continue to sell off from it and violate 50%, then we could assume that this is actually going to be the sell side of the curve being put in. So for this trade, I wouldn't anticipate this to become like an SMR, but it was. Because like you guys said, we don't get that typical, AMD setup here. But you can enter this trade assuming we'll get a retracement. And then if it just so happens you get lucky and we end up selling off completely, then obviously, that would be ideal in this scenario, right? At this point, I would have sold everything besides a runner because I don't know if this is going to break. And I think this is a good, take profit. You can sell, 1R at the 5-minute gap here and then sell another 2.5 there. Your average there is going to be about 1.75 R, and then you just have your runner. And that runner, you can decide whether or not you're going to cut it based on if we continue to have bearish delivery at that point. And so that's kind of how you play that trade. And then here, after this sweep, kind of the same idea, right? If you look at price, there's no roadblock in the way here. I mean, of course, there's this tiny 30-second or whatever it was here. And so that's where you go to break even at. But until we get to that point, there's no roadblock. And so you can take the 1 minute inverse here, assuming that we're going to go to that next high, okay, and then go to break even. And then obviously it's a break even trade. And then the reason why you don't even have to wait for that manipulation leg here is because you have that bullish soup in hindsight. You have the 10 a.m. reversal. You have an obvious gap that should hold if we're to remain bearish. That actually flips us bullish. So we have time. We have good momentum, we have model, and then we obviously have bias. The bias here is obviously the draw on liquidity is these unfilled 5-minute gaps. So it's literally the exact same idea, just at the sell side end versus the buy side end, right? And that's kind of the idea behind this morning short and even this long here, right? And then obviously since we've kind of swept both sides of the curve, sell side and buy side, we can expect chop for the rest of the session at that point. So this is how, once we see this play out, we can anticipate, maybe bad price conditions, maybe worse price conditions, that kind of thing. Like here, I would never anticipate price to come and hit this high during the same session because we wouldn't have gotten such a bearish reaction through 50% if we were going to re-hit this high. It doesn't really make sense to come down here. So those are kind of my thoughts. Whenever you see this type of a trade, just know that it probably won't work most of the time for a complete sell model, but it'll work for a retracement, especially if you have unfilled fair value gaps below or above. So I actually thought this was a good live account play, so I took this on what I would consider my live accounts. And I had a one-on-one this morning with one of the people in here, and I said that this was a trade that I would not feel horrible about if it was in my journal. I think this is a very good trade to take. And then we ended up taking this one together, and that ended up being a break even for the both of us. But I didn't think that the break even here would save us. I honestly thought that we would probably see a retrace to that 5-minute unfilled gap before maybe, price pulled back some. And so far it hasn't. And so now that we're coming into PM where we've reswept that high again and we're getting somewhat of a bearish reaction, the one thing that I'm focused on is just trying to be patient and wait for, bias and either momentum in time, momentum in model, time in model, whatever to align so that we can enter a trade. And then obviously I want to see probably a pullback if I'm going to go long here because I don't really like to long after we've taken out buy side. I want to see a retrace before that. And if I'm going to take a sell here, the gap that's probably going to flip my bias is going to be this 5 minute, I think if we inverse that, I would anticipate price to come down to this low. And then once price comes down to this low, we'll kind of gauge to see the reaction we get to it. If we hold this 15 minute, if we don't, whatever. If we flip this 15 minute, I'll probably be bearish down to at least this unfilled 15 minute gap here. But yeah, overall, like this price action right now just isn't the greatest. We're not really forming 1 minute for value gaps. We're not really going in any particular direction. So we might just have a choppy PM session today, especially given we have news this afternoon, I believe, with apparently Powell was supposed to be speaking at 1. I'm not sure if that ended up happening. We have that, and then I think outside of that, there's no other news. So let me take a look, see if he's still speaking. Oh, no, it was just brief. So that was about it. So no more Powell. And so now we'll probably just jump into PM here, and that'll be about that. Sell money reversal, smart money reversal. That's about it. Smart money reversal is just the model we call whenever we have a completed market maker model and then price reverses. Yeah, TB, I kind of explained that first condition. Really said never short a freight trade. Yeah, I get that. I get that. Plus delivery out of the 4 hour if we get it. Give us at least one banger. My room was yesterday. Okay, Powell spoke. 3 minute just inversed. He spoke for 5 minutes. Yeah, true. Figure that one out. But yeah, this momentum just isn't good enough. Just caught you in the middle of talking. I don't know if you said it, but is your draw currently the 4 hour gap? My draw is probably the unfilled 4 hour up here, but the only reason why is because we've made a higher high coming out of, I'm guessing, the 15 minute here. So because of that, because we're still respecting bullish higher time frame PD arrays, I think I'm going to be bullish. Obviously the idea of this whole long is coming off this 4 hour here. So yeah, I think as long as we're respecting higher time frame bullish PD arrays, I'll continue to be bullish here. If we tapped the 1 hour and created an inverse to the downside, would that be a good short setup? The 4 hour, the 1 hour, sure, maybe. Just gotta generate some good liquidity down here, maybe. Is there still a discount code for MFFU? Right now it's 20% off Expert and Starter Plus accounts with my code on the resets. And then I think it's 50% off new accounts still. They sent me an email saying that was the case. For sure, OEB. Was there any other confirmation setup after that 1 minute trade to go short? I don't think so, no. No, there wasn't. You pretty much just had to chase. I think somebody asked me about the 5 minute. There wasn't even a 5 minute short that triggered there, so I probably wouldn't have taken it. When are you going to start mentorships? I'm not. I'm probably just going to keep doing this, Cheesy, but I have one-on-ones and whatever. I took a 30-second long after that 1 minute was break even. Yeah, if you're talking about, I guess, this 30-second here, that was fine, but I would have just been instant break even on that because you go break even at that next fair value gap, which is there. 1 minute IFVG taps provided some entries for short, but different model. Yeah. Different model. Yep. Yeah, the only reason why I would ever take this short, guys, is because we had that unfilled 5 minute below and there was no roadblocks in the way before we got to that 5 minute. If that wasn't the case, or we were running into other gaps on different time frames, I wouldn't have taken that. But there was nothing until, that 5 minute. So, what are the cons of the current 2 minute short? Bad momentum, not in the macro, pretty terrible model. Delivery on the lower time frame hasn't been confirmed bearish, and the draw on liquidity sucks. So just like a horrible short. Can you show us your indicator settings and talk about what you have found most useful? I don't really use the indicator, to be honest. I mean, these are the settings I have right now. I think they're just like the generic ones. Obviously, I've adjusted the what's it called? The IFVG type. So instead of single, it's series. So that way, it's not alerting FVGs that are like a singular one, but there's like multiple gaps above it. And then outside of that, I mean, I try and keep it pretty close to just the normal stuff. But I'm probably not going to use it, to be honest. I'm just going to keep doing what's working for me because I'm not trying to fix what isn't broken. Oh, and then I also changed the IFVG threshold. I don't include the small gaps there. And I talked with 2 degrees about changing this so that you can just make it a custom preset amount, right? So like what I would want to do is I would just want to make it so that each gap that gets alerted is at least 5 points or greater. And then that was about it. But yeah, I wasn't even there for the indicator stream that happened last Friday because I had a one-on-one. Only wait for the 5 minute or also the 15. I'd be watching this 5 minute here. I mean, we have this 15 minute, but I mean the 5 minutes more obvious, so I'd probably just wait for that one. How was AM session? I thought AM session was fantastic. Good short, good long setup, right at 10 a.m. So no complaints. Obviously a break even, but what time frame? The 1 minute short here at 9:41 and the 1 minute long at 10:03. If you guys remember what I said about longing here or longing in general, when there's like a time frame that hasn't closed above, I said as long as you're taking like the model, so a singular obvious gap, good V shape, good momentum, and that model aligns with time, momentum, and bias, you don't have to wait for all time frames to be inversed. So in that scenario there, that's why that 1 minute entry is valid, even though that 30-second doesn't close above. Do you think because of Powell speaking we'll get choppy PA? Well, technically Powell already spoke. I think the reason why we'll get choppy PA is just because there's not any good draws in liquidity left. And we've already moved quite a bit today. So if an FEG is more obvious in 5 minutes is more important than an FEG that is smaller in the higher time frame, yeah, for the most part that logic applies. But another determiner of whether an FEG is important or not is based on whether or not that fair value gap makes higher highs or lower lows out of it, or if we show some sort of like respect for the gap. So like this 5 minute gap just has more history, right? We didn't form the 15 minute until like this candle here. And so because it's already shown that we haven't closed in the gap once or twice or 3 times or 4 times now, I just think the 5 minute has a little bit more significance than the 15 does. But I mean, yeah, essentially it's just if we close below the 5 minute here. Also, the 5 minute better aligns with the other time frame for value gaps here versus the 15 minute. See, so like if we draw the 15 minute here, and then we compare that to how the 3 and the 4 look, do you see how the 3 minute here could still hold, and the 2 minute and whatever could still hold, but the 15 minute could break. So I'm considering that as well. There's just more orders present here versus where the 15 minute rests. Right? You have to think about everything in the context of like what makes sense in terms of orders. But yeah, I feel kind of bad because I went on the rant about this morning's trades, and I'll probably have to repeat myself now because not everyone was probably here because I started early today. How do you feel about taking an IFVG if it's a volume imbalance? So there was a 3 minute long that the 1 minute got stopped to break even on. What do you mean? I'm confused. Nah, you're good, Baker. You're good. Nah, it wasn't your fault. I mean, I started early. 3-minute long. Oh, you're talking like this. Yeah, I would never take this, right? You're asking like how I would feel about a volume imbalance being inverse, and that's the IFVG. Yeah, I would just. I haven't back tested that, so I have no idea. Yeah, so like it might have worked then, but obviously I have no data, like no historical data on how often that works or doesn't work. So like I get the thought process behind it, I get the idea, but like it's gonna like occur so infrequently that it's not worth me backtesting an entire model behind it to try and figure out if like that's profitable in the long term or not. Yeah, well, I took the 1 minute short here, and then that was my one winning trade, and then I took this long on eval, and I got break even. So the FEG holding power, yeah, kind of just the history of the gap. Yeah. Yeah, well, I actually it's just so funny. Before you asked that question, I was just talking about how because I jumped on early here and I already talked about the AM trades. I'm gonna have to probably explain it again. So I'll explain it again if we continue to have like bad PA as we come into 2 o'clock here. I'll re-explain the thoughts behind this morning just so we can hammer that idea in. But yeah. Just so you guys know, I think either tomorrow or Wednesday, just whenever I get around to it, I'm gonna raise the prices on my one-on-ones. So they're gonna go from $200 to 250. So if you've been thinking about booking a one-on-one, I guess now would be the best time to do it since it's gonna go up in price starting middle of this week. Is that tariff pricing? Nah, that's just me. That's just me changing the pricing for it because um, I guess I'm trying to like disincentivize people booking one-on-ones because I honestly feel like I'm able to be more profitable by just trading on my own versus being in a one-on-one. And so lately I've been kind of doing really well just trading the mornings by myself. And so if I'm going to take the time out of the morning to trade with somebody else, I want it to be worth my while so that I'm not missing out on anything maybe that I would have taken on my own because I'm educating or whatnot. How do you book the one-on-one? Yeah, so it's just in the claim PM access. Um, okay, sounds good, Trade Boy. Is it $200 per day times 5 for Apex withdrawal? No, that's for Top Step. For Apex, it's 8 days of like at least $50 profit, but you have to hit the profit target, which is like 2,600. Yeah, Fahrenheit. I saw that. I'm good. I'm good. I gotta trade my own stuff, but I appreciate it. Isn't London equal lows good target? Let's see. London equal lows. So this is. So if you're talking about the relative equal lows here at London low, I'm guessing. I mean they're fine. I don't know. I need to see more bearish signs if I'm going to be targeting something that far away. Like right now, it just doesn't make sense in the context of the market. That target is like 350 or 300 points away. So like, I don't know. I wouldn't really expect price to go that way quite yet. We're just chopping quite a bit. Nah, Will, you're good. You're good. I figured that would happen. I originally joined because I wanted to take the time to hop on and like really like answer questions about it, or take some actual time before jumping into PM. But I realize now that that was probably a mistake when clearly nothing's happening, and now people are going to miss out on the explanation, so I'm going to have to re-explain it again. But basically the gist as to why the long and the short this morning were both good without waiting for that manipulation leg is because typically when we want to wait for a manipulation leg, we want to see price have like multiple consecutive gaps that are in the way, right? So like when we get that initial reversal after that dump, kind of like this, even though it's not a good example because it actually ended up working out, but more along the lines of something like this. I already went into replay mode and kind of showed, but if you look at like how price is reversing here, we had this massive dump prior to the reversal, and if you go to a different time frame, let's say the 3-minute, you can see that there's a bunch of these fair value gaps that are in the way on the way up here. And so those fair value gaps we would consider as roadblocks. And so here it makes sense to get that manipulation leg because we're probably going to see price reject those roadblocks one more time. And then after we get that manipulation leg here, we sweep at the low one more time, we get that reversal. And if you look at how price is reversing here, there's no roadblocks in the way until we get to this point, which is our break even, right? And that's a good 30 points away. So here this offers a better opportunity to enter a long, better risk reward, and less of a likelihood that we reject from that spot we're in because there's no roadblocks in the way there versus on the initial entry. And if you look here, it's that same idea, except obviously, we don't get that manipulation leg, but there's no roadblocks in the way before that initial break even, and we have an obvious draw here to go break even for that 1 minute short. It's this unfilled 5-minute gap. So that's kind of the idea behind taking the short there, coming off the 4 hour without waiting for that manipulation leg. Sometimes what you'll see in price is we'll just kind of slam through those. And even if you think about it like this on the lower time frame, this is kind of like building up LRLR for us. And so we expect all that to get ran through. I would never anticipate price to fully sell off here and complete the model. What I would expect here is for price to retrace, rebalance the inefficiency, respect 50%, and then continue to go higher. But clearly that didn't happen. And so that's essentially what you're doing with this short is you're just trying to attack the retracement. You're not really going for the whole move. But obviously you can gauge to see whether or not it makes sense to hold a runner based on the reaction we get to 50%. Obviously when we slam through it right here on this candle, that tells you, okay, maybe we're going to go a lot lower. Maybe we can target the liquidity we left behind at 930 here, right? And so I guess it's important there to understand like subjectivity in the model when something like that happens, right? Where not every play is going to look the same. Not every short is going to need a manipulation leg. Obviously, based on what we've seen in the market, these trades where we get manipulation legs before the reversal are going to be higher probability to see work for the entire move. But sometimes that's not what you're looking for. Sometimes all you need is a piece of the pie, and so that's why shorting there, getting that retracement play is good. Can I explain swing highs and lows? I mean, a swing high is a 3-candle pattern that has a lower high, higher high, lower high, and then a swing low is a higher low, lower low, higher low. How was my weekend, bro? It was good. I appreciate that, EJ. How was your weekend, man? Zebby? So we got this 5-minute inverse coming up here in about a minute. We'll see if price closes through that in the macro. If we get the close on the macro, we'll have time, bias, and then not really the model because momentum kind of sucks. So we'll have 2 components. So maybe this is like an eval short, but probably still not something I would take unfunded just based off of how slow we're moving here. Not really the greatest price action in the world. That would be a good play, right? Not really, because momentum, it kind of kills the model and the momentum piece of the subjectivity. So it would just be okay. I'd probably rate this like an A- setup if we were to get it. Typically, you want to take A minus setups only if the draw on liquidity is very good, which right here it's not. It's just like this ITL inside the gap, so not really the greatest. And then obviously no 5-minute inverse there, so we got to wait another 5 minutes. Four-minute looks good too. Yeah, 4-minute close will be in about 2 minutes. I'd probably just use the 2-minute, if you wanted to use the 4 though. Only time I'm not going to wait for extra time frame confirmations is if we have a really good draw on liquidity, or if we have all components of the model, which I guess we're kind of picking up momentum here, but like not really. And then bias is kind of questionable because the lower time frame delivery hasn't been confirmed yet. And then model, like this isn't V-shape, this is like pretty lethargic on the way down. So yeah, I mean, not really what we're looking for. Five-minute would be a good condition rather than entry. I just think the best entry we'll probably get here will be for a 3 o'clock move. I don't think before then we'll get a very good entry because we don't have enough liquidity. So because of that, there's not really a good draw right now. So your bias will change to bearish if we inverse. Yeah, I'll be bearish to the low. So I was talking to Tanya in my one-on-one this morning, and I came to the realization that I probably needed to explain this idea that I haven't really fleshed out before. And this idea is essentially your bias only is relevant during the range in which the IFVG happens. And then once price sweeps liquidity of that range where the IFVG occurs, you have to constantly be reevaluating to see if your bias is still true. And the way that you constantly reevaluate is you determine delivery, which delivery is just if price is respecting or disrespecting PD arrays, right? And so here, when we get this 5-minute inverse, I think it would make sense to see price go to this next low, and it would shift my bias bearish in that regard. But after we hit this low, my bias won't just stay bearish, right? I will evaluate and see, okay, what type of reaction are we getting to this low? Are we displacing through it? Are we souping it? Are we starting to chop? What is price really doing? Are we coming off of it and starting to disrespect bearish PD arrays, right? Because based off that reaction we get, will tell us what the bias is going to be, or will allow us to anticipate whether or not the bias will continue to be bearish or bullish or whatnot. And so just because my bias flips when we get this 5-minute inverse, that doesn't mean I'm going to be bearish for the whole rest of the session. Maybe I'm just bearish till this low, right? And then after that, we'll see if we displace through the 15-minute here, maybe I'll expect this low next, right? And so we just have to keep reevaluating our bias as we hit, roadblocks and more liquidity points, right? And so that's kind of the idea behind also this 1-minute short this morning. We keep going back to the same idea. My bias flips bearish here when we start to disrespect bullish PD arrays, because all I need for bias is delivery plus draw on liquidity. Okay? And so here we start delivering bearish when we disrespect that bullish PD array, and our draw on liquidity becomes the 5-minute. Once we hit that 5-minute, I don't know what my bias is because delivery hasn't been confirmed either way yet until we start to put in more bearish PD arrays and respect those, like here, right? And so, okay, there my bias is still bearish. My next liquidity target can be 50%. That pairs well with that unfilled or the rebalance, right? So there, draw on liquidity is 50%. We're still respecting that. Then once I hit 50%, I'm doing the same thing. Okay, let's evaluate. What's that reaction at 50%? Are we still bearish? And so on and so forth until we hit this liquidity target. And then once again, we reevaluate. Okay, what's our reaction to this liquidity target? Oh, it's a soup. Oh, we have good V-shaped momentum. Oh, we're disrespecting bearish PD arrays. Okay, I flip my bias bullish. Now I'm bullish to this next high here, right? Or not this high, sorry, this high here. And then once we hit this high, oh, I'm reevaluating again. That's why we go break even at the next, inefficiency or liquidity point, because our job is to be constantly reevaluating bias in the moment, right? So 5 minutes still respecting here. Marwin, my reason for saying that this does is because when we sweep the 4 hour bearish gap here, after that sweep, we are evaluating to see the reaction of that 4 hour gap. And so because our 4 hour reaction there, similar to how we got this reaction after sweeping liquidity here, is very bearish, this, like, we essentially, when we hit liquidity, we can ignore everything that happens before it, right? We can ignore essentially all this, that was making us bullish before, right? Except for this, right? This is all that matters in the moment, because this is like that first gap that should hold if price is to remain bullish, right? After that liquidity sweep, right? So this is our condition. This is like what makes us still bullish to see price head higher, or flips us bearish if we have a negative reaction to liquidity here. You're essentially taking the soup play here when you get that IFVG. You're just waiting for that extra confirmation. And so because we sweep liquidity when we get this inverse, you can use that 1 minute, because this 1 minute actually does have relevance, right? But if we don't get a liquidity sweep and we just get a random reversal, that's when this 1 minute isn't that important, in my opinion. Like, obviously, this is just what I've seen through, trading the model and backtesting and whatever. But whenever we get that liquidity sweep, that first inverse after that liquidity sweep is kind of like our tell. It's kind of like, okay, are we still going to be bearish? Are we still going to be bullish, or whatever? Yeah, for sure. In this scenario, would you use the 5 minute to determine if we're short-term bearish instead of the tiny 50? Yeah, I would use the 5 minute, right? Because it's more obvious, I think, and it aligns better with the other inefficiencies on the other time frames. Whereas the 5 minute or the 15 minute is kind of above all that. But yeah, no, I totally understand like the confusion here. Like, I think this is a very subjective trade. This is a very like high level advanced trade. So if you didn't take it, like, I totally understand why you wouldn't take it. But essentially, the reason why you take that short is just simply based off the reaction we get to the 4 hour. If we're truly bullish there, we're going to respect this gap all day, right? And we're going to run through it. But because we get that bearish reaction to the 4 hour, we kind of know that, like, okay, if price wants to go from inefficiency to inefficiency, that next place it's going to go to is the unfilled 5 minute inefficiency below. And then we can just continue to reevaluate. Also, ES took Asia high and filled NWOG. That's the even clearer sign. Yeah, that too. Didn't we have like a bearish SMT there or something? From 530 maybe it was. Yeah, NQ took, yeah, okay. So that was the other thing too, is we had that bearish SMT. And then the other component, which was cool too, on the long, was that we had a bullish SMT there. So same thing, right? Is 5 minute FVG the first higher time frame for value IQ used as a target? I see the 5 minute as a lower time frame. But yeah, that the target I would have after the 5 minute inverse here would be this low, but obviously that didn't happen. So probably just gonna see price continue to respect bullish media raise, and then maybe we see longs here continue to work to that 4 hour unfilled BPR above. Can you explain why you don't wait for the manipulation? Okay. Yeah. Not Krish. I'm not laughing at you. Yeah. I think I explained it like 2 times before this. Yeah. So that's all. Maybe I think I'm kind of getting hung up on this, but honestly, like at this point, I just don't want to explain it again myself, Nat Krish. So what I'll do is I'll have the video uploaded, and if you just watch like the first 10 minutes of the video, um, until like right now, like I'll that will explain everything. But essentially the idea is because of the fact that there's not really any roadblocks in the way here, there's no reason to have to wait for that manipulation leg, because typically when we're waiting for that manipulation leg, it's because there's a bunch of fair value gaps that are in the way, preventing price from heading to its next target, um, which is that break even point, right? That's the reason why we want to wait for that manipulation leg, is because getting to that break even point can be difficult. But here the break even point's very easy because it's just this unfilled 5 minute, right? So we can just go break even there and then hope that price continues to fall and we get like that retrace to 50%, and then we can gauge the reaction to 50 and then see if price wants to continue falling. But essentially the idea is just you're looking for the retracement play here. You're not looking for the full on market maker sell model. And then if you do end up getting the market maker sell model, that's just lucky, and um, you know, obviously like sometimes that'll happen. Like we got it this morning. Yeah. And then yeah, that too, like what Trade Boy said, right? Like if you look at the higher time frame here, um, the higher time frame can almost be perceived as like that initial manipulation leg, right? And then back to the downside, we sweep liquidity, and then we get that um, smart money reversal back up to the upside to complete the market maker model, right? So manipulate, distribute, and then I guess manipulate again, and then distribute up, right? This being our manipulation leg here, right? Obviously, it'll be cleaner on other days, but just to kind of explain away today's. And sometimes like if it's too difficult to like contextualize all this stuff in the market and like be thinking about that, and you kind of get into that analysis paralysis, and that causes you to not take trades, then honestly it might be better to just like not take this setup, like if that works better for you, and you kind of understand right now why not taking the first inverse after a big pump or a big dump makes sense, then don't force yourself to take a trade, or don't force yourself to take that first inverse if like you're not completely sure that like, okay, this is the time that I need to do that, because what'll end up happening is you'll end up taking trades that maybe aren't exactly this, that end up losing, or this will end up losing, and you'll be like, wait, I did what Reliable said and it lost, and the reason why is because like we're basing all of our trades off statistics, and so if a play loses, maybe statistically it didn't work this time, right? I don't know the win rate of every single IFVG ever, right? Like I have a really good idea of like a handful, but like this is like a very unique IFVG. So like if you don't want to take that for that reason, like that's totally fine too. Yeah, for sure, Zibby. Powell already spoke today, 0398. Yeah, the liquidity sweeps there I thought were pretty obvious for sure. Okay, Trade Boy. So yeah, still got 6 minutes left of the macro here. But yeah, basically like this is really all you have to know, just to simplify everything we've talked about over the last couple of weeks. Bias is king, okay? So that needs to be like priority number one, is understanding how to form bias, how bias can shift in the moment, how to adapt your bias throughout the day, and then understanding all the components of bias like delivery and all the different hierarchy of draws, okay? The second piece of it is waiting like waiting, and then essentially like what that means for patients is macros. So like wait for those, and then extremity of the range, right? And if you pair those two things together, when trading this model, you're gonna like improve your profitability so much, because these two things are the number one and number two reason why people lose trading this model. It's either because they're trading against the bias, and they're like just like taking like poor quality setups that don't have anything in terms of like confirmed delivery or a good draw, or it's because they're impatient and either they missed the initial trade at the extremity because they didn't have a plan, they didn't roadmap it out, they weren't expecting the trade to happen as soon as they did or whatever, and so they FOMO into the second entry, and it's a poor quality entry because we've exited the macro at that point, or we've retraced and we're already in premium when we were trying to long or whatever. That's the one reason. Or two, it's because they see a setup, it looks really good mechanically, but subjectively it just isn't there, and they're not patient enough to wait for the subjective trade, and they want to take their one setup and get off, and so they take a setup that looks good mechanically, but subjectively it's not that good. They lose on it, and then their rule states that they can't take a trade for the rest of the day, and then if, 20 minutes later we get a really good, subjectively good setup, and then that ends up being a win. So if you just, can wait for these two things, there you go. I mean, you're going to be in a lot better shape. So I don't know if anyone can kind of relate to anything I just mentioned there, but I mean that's usually what I see when people are taking losses is patience, or just fading the bias, because they're trying to time that reversal and they're just a little too soon, or it's just not correct what they're doing. Just low probability. Which kind of range are we talking about? Leg range or day range? Session range usually. But it kind of depends. If we get a lot of expansion in the morning and it's 10 a.m. and we're not showing any signs of us slowing down, and it's clearly a trend day, we're at 10:10, we're still moving up, and we get a nice confirmation setup still with like good equal highs above or a data wick, like you don't have to wait for the extremity of the range, right? Because there, you have the bias and you have other components. So it's just in most scenarios that's the problem. Like today, if you're trying to take longs up here, like why? You can wait for a sweep of like lunch lows, or some sweep of the session liquidity before trying to take a long, and that's going to be higher probability, right? And if you just try and long up here, wait in premium. If we look at the range that we're in since lunch, right? I mean, we're clearly in premium of that range, and then if you look at contextually on the rest of the day, we're super high in premium, right? So people, sitting in PM here are going to be trying to force long setups because, we've already been in here for almost an hour now, and, they're like, I have to take a long, it looks like we're going back up with respect to the 5 minute, and then they take a long setup and it just ends up failing. It's like, why when you could wait for something better? All right, sounds good, Zebby. It's like those people that like, I guess, are looking for a car, okay, and they go to the car auction and they're trying to buy like a used Jetta or something, and they see a Jetta and it has like 9 million different problems and it's like super high mileage and whatever, and then because it's what they were looking for, that's the first thing they buy, and then like 3 minutes later another Jetta comes up on the auction block, and it's like a super clean, low mileage, like more options, better version. And if they would have just waited, a few more minutes instead of taking the first thing they saw, they would have a much better car in their hands, right? In this case, for us, it's like a much better trade. So you just you can't pounce on the first thing that comes across the auction block. You got to wait for the quality. I guess that's the gist of the analogy. Who the hell goes to an auction for a car? I don't know. Dealerships. My buddies used to do that because their families were involved in car dealerships. Uh-oh. Saquon Barkley's on the cover of Madden 26, so I will not be drafting him next season. Although realistically, there's no reason why he should perform bad next season, right? Like, did the Eagles have any O linemen retire? Dude, Kelsey is not coming back. Be for real, man. Brady coming back? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Trump administration wants nation's best offer by Wednesday in tariff talks. Draft of request. Oh, we got due dates on the tariffs. Oh boy. You think this PA is going to give us anything this evening? I always have the same answer to that question, Sniper, and it's at the moment probably not, but price can change at a drop of a hat. So, maybe 250 provides us with a good, reversal setup, and we get a play from previous hourly low to previous hourly high or something, right? Like, I just have no idea. Right now, though, it does not look like it, just based off of how price action looks. I mean, it's a pretty bad PA. And we have gotten a setup the last 4 days. So given that, normally we anticipate 2 to 4 a week. We got 3 last week on a short week, and we got the week before we had one. So I don't know. We've had a lot of hits in a row, which means we're probably due for like a slow day. No. Nah, Whale, I wouldn't because we don't have the time component. Momentum isn't there. This doesn't really meet the criteria of the model because we don't get the liquidity sweep and this gap isn't obvious. And then obviously we're in premium of the range. And then drawing liquidity right now to the highs isn't very good because you're trying to target a high that swept out buy side. Um, and then obviously now it's invalid. So, nah, I wouldn't take this 1 minute. What would you do if something like this happens, like higher time frame, 15 4 hour, has liquidity on both sides, and nothing gets taken, and FVGs have been disrespected on both sides? Yeah, I just wouldn't take anything there, TB. I would just wait for one side to be swept and then probably try and target the other. Ideally, in that scenario, I'd probably want the lows to be taken and then longs. The only way that I wouldn't target a low there is if like it was a protected low. And then I would expect buy side to get hit first. So maybe there, what I could see happen is like price soup that low that we just swept in that screenshot, and then we get a reversal from there. Only if that's a protected low to the left of it. If that's not a protected low, then I would anticipate price coming down, hitting that liquidity, and then coming back up. But yeah, no, when we're in that scenario, that's the perfect scenario to wait for external to be swept before trying to target, you know, buy side or sell side or whatever. So yeah, patience. We tapped the 50%. Of this up move, yes. Yeah, so here we're just still bullish. I mean, obviously there's no confirmation setup, but yeah. So there's the highs again. Here, not really any good singular obvious gap for us to take short. Maybe this 2 minute if we get it, but I prefer to see it be a singular gap, and here obviously that's not the case. So we'll see. Yeah, for sure, TB. 3 potentially. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, this gap just, I think the 2 minutes going to be better here when it forms. Like, we'll get a better looking, more obvious gap than the 3 minute, I think. Honestly, though, I don't think it really makes sense to get a short until after we hit the 4 hour. So I'm probably going to expect that to get hit first at this point. Just because we're continuing to respect bullish PD arrays in the lower time frame and we're continuing to make higher highs. So until we get like a good liquidity sweep or we rebalance some inefficiency, I think price wants to go from inefficiency to inefficiency. So this is the next inefficiency, right? We've already balanced the lower 4 hour. So upper 4 hour makes sense. 4 hour, yeah, we hit the 50% of the 4 hour yet. But considering we've already rebalanced to that 4 hour to the left, it doesn't really make sense to see a reversal here. We'll probably just see price go to the next inefficiency above. What about this 4 minute? Let's go down. I don't really like using the 4 minute. It's pretty unreliable and inconsistent, and we have a 2 minute gap right below it that we could respect. The stream's recorded? Yeah, it'll be recorded, TB. New York high on ES next from Friday. Yeah, so we have that high on ES that Fahrenheit's talking about here. So this is where we'll start to gauge that reaction we get, right? So this is that scenario where if price gets a super reaction to this high and we don't really displace above it, and then we get a bearish reaction to the downside here, this is when you can take that first inverse, obviously. But this isn't really that same like one-to-one scenario because it wasn't like a massive up move. But this is exactly what I mean, right? Depending on that reaction we get to, us taking liquidity is going to determine whether or not we're still bullish or bearish. And so right now, as it stands, as long as we continue to make higher highs over this previous high here, then we'll continue to be bullish. And as long as we're respecting this 2 minute, we'll continue to be bullish. So like here we could get the perfect scenario for previous high to previous low of the hourly candle. Where price comes up here, we tap into the 4 hour SIBI, sweep the high of the previous hourly high, reject from the 4 hour SIBI, and then we target previous hourly low here, like this low. Like that could be good. ES high taken from Friday. Yep, we got that. And this is still an opportunity to evaluate, even though we're still making higher highs, because we haven't closed above that initial soup high yet, and we're getting a bearish reaction to ES taking the high here. So if we don't close above that and we start to reject here, then I would potentially be on board with this 2-minute short. But I'm kind of getting married to this idea of us coming up, hitting the 4-hour BPR, getting a bearish reaction there, getting a manipulation leg in the macro, where we, maybe at 3 o'clock we take out that previous hourly high, and then, we see a short down to the previous hourly low there. That kind of gives us, a good power of 3 here on the daily as well. So that would be nice to see that get cleaned up. But yeah, just continuing to make progress upward here. I think we're going to hit that 533 level probably before 3. Less than 4 points. Oh yeah, if 2-minute went to work. But yeah, no, I wouldn't take that either. Only 3 points. Yeah, I'm good. If I go over BPR, yeah, so BPR is just a balanced price range. That's what it stands for. And it's just whenever we have a bearish or bullish for value gap overlapping one another. So in this scenario here, we have a bullish overlapping a bearish. This is a balanced price range. They're the strongest PD arrays in the market because it's technically an area and price that once the bearish gap is balanced here, or if it was a bullish BPR, the bullish gap is balanced, there's no reason for price to come back to it because it's a perfectly balanced inefficiency. We've completely balanced the bullish gap here to the downside. And so because this is an area that's completely balanced in price or completely efficiently traded, price is going to want to go to that next inefficiency, and it's never going to want to come back for the technically efficiently traded price unless the goal of that unless the goal of the market or unless the goal of price is to just completely violate that and go to the next buy side level. So in this scenario here, when price comes up to this 4-hour, the only reason why we would push up through it is if price actually wanted to go for probably something like, I guess, all-time highs, because the only reason why we'd come up here to retap this high inside the weekly is to inverse the weekly SIBI, which once we inverse the weekly SIBI, just will hit all-time highs. So basically this 4-hour gap is going to be doing a lot of work here. If we inverse that, we'll probably see all-time highs by, I don't know, middle to end of summer. Power of 3 is just this idea where we have price that opens, okay? And then if it's a bullish candle, we'll manipulate down, put in the bottom side of the wick, put in the body here, and then put in the top of the wick. So right here is your body, and then wick, right? And so that's power of 3 of a bullish candle, and then power of 3 of a bearish is the exact opposite, where we put in the, I guess, top of the wick first, manipulate up, and then distribute down, and then manipulate in that last, usually it's the 10 minutes for the hourly candle to put in the wick there. And so the idea behind getting a potential short here towards the end of the day is we would be putting in that wick on the daily candle here when we reject off the 4-hour. So kind of the idea. Just the trailing drawdown TV. So yeah, 2,500. What profitable trade said. Nah, you should be good, TB. That's like 2, maybe 3 winning trades. You'll be back. Is anybody in a trade right now? 2. Cool, cool. This is kind of what Friday was like, right? If you didn't catch that like 2 o'clock reversal at lunch, or maybe you took the 1 hour inverse on options, there was really not a play. Um, and so I don't really feel uh, bad about missing that session, since it was just like straight up. There was no opportunity for us. All right. Sorry, I'm back. Went to grab something real quick. But yeah, right now, um, I guess what do you guys do whenever there's not really anything for us to do until I guess more structure forms? Fortnite, solitaire, work. Okay, trade boy. Not the fire emoji, bro. Stop. Okay, throwing a show for sure. Would you like to see a manipulation leg rather than taking the first 1 minute in FVGs? Yeah, probably TB, right? And the other reason why I'd want to wait for that manipulation leg is because we need to see price sweep the previous hourly high, and the only way we're going to get that is if we get a manipulation leg. So yes, I would. Okay, Fahrenheit. Okay. I keep thinking, what is reliable? Honestly, I just respond to your guys' questions for the most part, and if I'm not doing that, I'm just on my phone scrolling. Um, that's about it. You're in a car in a road trip. Where are you going? Profitable. Hopefully, you're not the one driving. What am I scrolling? Usually, just like reels or TikTok or emails or I don't know. Not really a whole lot. Um, what kind of reels? I don't know. I see a lot of like. What have I seen lately? I mean, obviously, I get like the trader content stuff. I get cat videos. Sometimes I'll see like different like car crash stuff. Um, I don't know. Let me scroll through right now. All right, so right now I have a video of a dude adding 1 ice cube to his grass for every follower. Um, he's gonna make it an igloo for every follower. I guess. I just gotta. I don't know. This dude's G80 is wrecked in his in front of his driveway. Looks like maybe it caught on fire. He has a GoFundMe link in his thing. Like I don't know. Let's open a PM only Minecraft realm for real. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah for sure, Shadka. Yeah, that was a good one. TB, we're talking about the 3 o'clock candle. This is the 2 o'clock candle that we're forming right now. So when the 3 o'clock candle forms, ideally what we would want to see in about 30 minutes is price manipulate up, run the high of the previous hourly candle, and then get a reversal out of the 4 hour. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. Hey, that's good. That's better than being down, Pat. I wouldn't have done the eval passing strat so soon uh, to NFP. I probably would have just waited for NFP. But what's awesome that Apex did was they actually dropped the price of their funding fee. So if you pass any accounts this week during eval pass on NFP, it'll be $30 cheaper than normal, which is pretty cool. Yeah, for sure, Pat. Would you say majority of PM trades are 3 p.m. macro? It kind of depends, Kier. It's all over the place. Kind of all over the place. What's the least risky way to do the eval pass strat? I mean, just press buy, have a sell limit, however many points you need a way to pass on one account, and then sell on the other account, and have that TP however many points away you need to pass, and like that'll usually work. I mean, the only other way is to have the limit order set thing, but like, yeah, exactly Fahrenheit. That way is, I mean, either of the two methods are pretty safe. Yeah, $40 cheap protector. Yep. I was talking about the 25K. I think the 25K funding fees $30 cheaper, but yeah. All right, Fahrenheit. Okay, okay. I mean, yeah, like passing an eval should be pretty foolproof. It's just the funding phase that people have trouble with, right? So this is good. This allows us to buy some time, hopefully before we hit that 4 hour civvy. By getting this retracement here, I'm guessing we're coming back to maybe tap into a 5 minute we left behind or something. Maybe rebalance the 30 minute candle, and then maybe we can see price come back up and hit that 4 hour civvy, and then 3 o'clock comes around and we get our short. Gotcha, Pat. Okay, I see. Are we too high in premium to long? Yeah, obviously we're way too high, but you could maybe take like a 1 minute here on eval, but this is just never something I'm gonna take personally. Right? If I'm gonna take a long year, I'm gonna wait for that retrace. And right now, we could see 50% get hit here because I believe it aligns with that 5 minute down here. Yeah. So I mean, if you're gonna long, gotta wait for at least discount of the dealing range to be hit. But even then, like, I just don't think it makes sense in the context of where we're at in the daily range to long this high up, right? Because longing here, you'd be longing like the middle of the range, and we want to be longing at the extremities. When do you count VIs? Normally I'll count those VIs when they're a point or greater sheets, the ones that like add to the FVG. So if they're less than a point, I don't really care about them too much. But yeah, obviously I'm not going to short here because bullish delivery. So bias is not bearish. This is where you'd wait for a manipulation leg, by the way. If you're trying to short, you wouldn't just short here because we're running into this 1 minute, for example, right? Oh wait, actually, let me see. I might as well. Yeah, we have a 3 minute right after that. So yeah, no. This is where you wait for that manipulation leg because you have that next 3 minute gap there, right? What is making you look at a 2 minute short versus 5 minute? I just wouldn't look at any short. I'm not looking at any short here. The only thing I'd maybe look at is like I'd pay attention to the 1 minute, but even then, if we were to inverse the 1 minute, you'd be running right into a 3 minute gap that you'd have to go break even at. Obviously, this 1 minute looks pretty V-shaped to the upside, but I feel like it's just going to end up being a break-even trade given that we're outside of the macro. Momentum here is pretty meh. Like, it's just okay. I mean, if this takes multiple candle closes here, forget it. Like, the momentum will be screwed. And then the model, we kind of swept this low, I guess. But, like, for the model here, you want to sweep out external liquidity. I mean, this, like, low that we have marked that got swept doesn't exist out of any time frame besides the 1 or 2 minute, so it's not that significant of a liquidity sweep. So like model is kind of questionable. I'd probably rate it like an A model setup given we're so high in premium, and then obviously no time. Momentum is whack now, and then bias is obviously good. So this is just bias and model. There's no momentum or time here. And then if obviously like it takes a while for this candle to close here, the model will be done when A minus mechanical setup. What time frame sweep would be like an obvious high or low, like that sticks out. Like this is an obvious low that sticks out, right? And then you can confirm that by checking multiple time frames. And if that low exists on multiple time frames, that's an obvious low, right? So like here, this low sticks out on the 15 minute, right? So at some point here, like if you saw price sweep out these lows, that would be significant. But like this low here doesn't even exist on the 2 minute time frame, so it's not that significant, right? $15-minute high here sticks out, right? It appears on a lot of different time frames, even the 30-minute. So this is a high that sticks out. These ones probably not. Usually they're at the extremities of the range. You'll be able to tell. They're obvious. And you can see here, like, this is just bad momentum, right? If we're looking at 5 points per minute, if we start at the swing low, we haven't even closed over yet. This is 504. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're on the 5th candle. If we get a good close here, I mean, it'll be what, 15 points in 5 minutes? That's only 3 points per minute. That's not very good. Has there been any setups? Foam was on 1% and had a power cut and died. So yeah, no, there hasn't been anything. Well, yeah, TB for sure. I mean, like those sometimes work, but like you have to think of always price in the context of orders. And so what's going to be something that has more stop losses? A 1 or 2 minute low that isn't recognizable on any of the higher time frames, or a low that, you know, is recognizable in a lot of different time frames, right? That has a pronounced move after it, where anyone that went long here can place their stop order below, right? So this is going to have a bigger liquidity pool, and then once that's swept, you know, price is going to want to go to the next obvious liquidity pool, which is usually above, right, if we're taking out sell side. So that's why getting a sweep here would be more significant, because there's better liquidity. There's more orders. I have an issue. I have some issue to understand. Hope you can help. When we're too high to long, but still not a good idea to short either, because bias is bullish, obviously, because we're high and vice versa. How should this be solved? Yeah, so in that scenario, Renacho, the only way that I'm going to take a setup is when we get another liquidity sweep or we rebalance an inefficiency. Otherwise, I'll either wait for price to retrace, to discount, or take out some, important liquidity like these lows here before looking for a long, or I'll just do nothing. Right. So those are your two scenarios. You either wait, or you do nothing. The only way that I'm longing when we're high in premium is if we have a good draw on liquidity above, and like we're in a good trend day buy model type scenario. But yeah, basically just wait. Patience, right? We just talked about that. I think we're too high for me to long. Yeah, exactly. You went to dinner? Anything happened? Not yet, Crypto. Enjoy your dinner, man. Red folder news every day this week, so should hopefully get some nice trades. Oh, absolutely. For sure. Yeah, Jolts tomorrow. Will you only take a trade off a higher time frame FVG, or do you sometimes take one even if not directly off the higher time frame FVG, but delivery is still? So delivery isn't necessarily that it's respecting or coming off of a fair value gap. Delivery is just the condition that says, are we respecting bullish PDRAs, or are we disrespecting them, or are we respecting bearish or disrespecting them, right? So just because we get a liquidity sweep, that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to be coming off of some fair value gap. Obviously that helps, right? Because usually what that means is whenever we sweep a low inside of a fair value gap or a high inside of a fair value gap, or we tap into an inefficiency, that triggers the algo to then want to go to the next inefficiency, right? Or a liquidity point. But sometimes we just sweep out liquidity that has no fair value gap to the left, and we reverse. And the reason why is because we start to get bullish delivery in the form of disrespecting bearish PDRAs, right? So, honestly, I would trade off any time frame FVG as long as it was obvious. It doesn't necessarily have to be the higher time frame. That just helps. It's just an extra confluence, right? The only thing that makes me enter a trade is if bias aligns with some combination of these two or these three, I guess, concepts here: momentum, time, and model, right? So if momentum and model align with bias, done deal. Momentum and time align with bias, done deal. Time and model align with bias, done deal, right? Components, concepts, whatever. Yeah. 30-second if you long to draw SMT with this looking good. Yeah, so we do have a bullish SMT here. 30-second is obviously invalid here, but looks like we got the 1 minute here. And we're coming up on that macro time. I will say, though, if you try longing here, just know that in about a minute, we're going to put in a bullish 15-minute gap here. So that's going to turn into an inefficiency to the downside, which I would rather see unfilled because this can turn into a draw on liquidity for us. But if price wants to go to this gap before heading to the 4 hour, then that 1 minute long you're about to take right now might get wrecked. So that's like another issue with trying to long super high in premium is you're caught between two potential draws on liquidity, and then whenever there's opposing draws on liquidity, it just makes for worse delivery or worse PA or whatever. But yeah, 1 minute was good there. 2 minute closed over. So ideally it makes sense for price to go to this high, but then again, momentum isn't there. Obviously, the gap isn't that obvious itself. Really high up in premium, and we just formed that inefficiency to the downside here with this 15 minutes. So we will see. So long setup from the 15-minute, okay, in my opinion. It'll definitely be better than any long we've gotten so far. Like if we came down and swept out this low and got a long for the 15 minute. But like I said, it's really high end premium. So I'm kind of hoping we just leave it behind because I'd rather take a short here to target the unfilled 15 minute than a long coming off the 15 minutes. It's just like context of the day, we're really high up, right? Do I use fib or not? I'll use fib when we're at all time highs, but other than that, I just use the fib for like 50% retracements, and that's about it. I don't really use it for like OTE or anything like that. It just, for me, it's unnecessary in order to be profitable. Like, I can usually find liquidity targets just fine without having to have fib targets. We got 4 more minutes until the 250 macro here. Yeah, for sure. Sure will. You wish I streamed AM? Hey, you guys got dodgy for that. Yeah, if you set up bracket orders, Matt, on TradingView, I'm pretty sure you can do that. It's just going from 200 to 250 Fahrenheit. So a little bit of a price adjustment, but honestly, not so much out of the pricing where it's like it makes it unreasonable, right? Like if somebody who's willing to spend 200 like saw a price change to 250, I feel like that wouldn't necessarily. Yeah, same time. Yep. No shrinkflation on top. No, just a small price adjustment. That's all. I'm just starting to value my time in AM session more and more, and so because I'm valuing it more myself, I don't. Basically, the extra $50 is just the opportunity cost that I'm missing out on by not being alone. Yeah, exactly. For 5K a month, you could hang out with me every single morning. Is the one-on-one for the whole of AM session? Yep. We do a cost benefit. Okay, fair enough. Sounds good. Yeah, honestly, like if you were doing one-on-ones with me every single day for a month and we couldn't get you to a payout, like on at least MFFU, that would be crazy. All right, so here's 250. This is where we could definitely see price come down, maybe hit that 15 minute, chop around for a bit, get that 3 o'clock candle close, put at the hourly high here, have price manipulate up, tap that 4 hour, and then get a bearish reaction to the downside, and then maybe coming back to that previous hourly low here, which I believe is this low. Makes sense. Nice and obvious too for us. After we tap that 4 hour gap, yeah, so targets for shorts would just be previous hourly low, I think 426 here. And then, I don't know after that. Maybe this unfilled 15-minute down here, but I think that's probably unrealistic. Can't hear. I can restart stream real quick, Eco. Eco, can you hear me? So you can see there, that 1 minute technically failed, right? Or did it, was it saved by this tiny 1 minute inception gap here? I guess it's a win. I mean, if we're including that inception gap. But obviously, you know, that wasn't something I took. Just tape read it. SMT. Okay, true. Bearish SMT. Not going to short here, I don't think. Probably not going to short until after 3, to be honest. But yeah, let's evaluate. We got macro time. We got kind of the model. Obviously, it's not a singular gap. We don't have the momentum yet, obviously. And then bias is still bullish. It'll probably still be bullish as long as we're holding this 15-minute bullish gap here. So if we inverse that, that's when we'll become bearish. Or if we tap the 4 hour up here and get a bearish reaction, then that would make us bearish too. But yeah, not yet. Not yet. Sounds good, Sniper. Have a good rest of your evening. So yeah, macro is just not really giving us anything right now. Let's do the Wordle real quick. It'll take me like a minute. What are we thinking? Like RE? Or ER? Could be like fiery. No, it can't be fiery. No ER actually. What's Wordle? It's just a New York Times game. You're trying to guess a 5-letter word. The yellow denotes that the letters are in the word, but they're in the wrong position. Gray means they're not in the word. So you're trying to just guess a 5-letter word with that. Ready? Can't be ready because there's no A. Rates, no A. Or S. But like, I don't know. I'm thinking ER here. Maybe like. Maybe it ends with R. Maybe it's like E and then IR. Can we get a word? Nerdy. I actually don't hate that. Okay. So E doesn't go in the second spot, so E probably goes in one of these spots, or maybe it even starts with E. Could be like enter. Okay. So it's a double E word. So it's probably like green. Green. Okay, there we go. We got there. Enter long or short, okay. Zoner. Yes, hit the 4 hour. Oh, okay, that's gonna suck. Okay, I mean, I guess if we got the key to the reversal here, that would be fine. So what I'd be looking at is obviously a manipulation leg here. This scenario, it's not necessary because there's no roadblocks in the way before this 1 minute. However, I would like it just so we can get like the previous hourly high sweep. Like that would be cool. But yeah, technically not horrible. This is actually the condition here. We have singular gap, equal lows below to go break even at. We have the model. We have time. We just don't have momentum yet. And then obviously bias isn't confirmed, but we'll evaluate bias based on the reaction we get to this 4 hour on the ES. So Dodgy's always saying that's why I don't look at ES whenever, you know, we try and base a liquidity idea off of the reaction we get from ES here. But I will say, like, if we get a bearish reaction here, it's not horrible. I need momentum and bias here, I think. Time and model is all we'd get on this inverse. Because bias I don't think is confirmed until we get better confirmation of delivery here. Because this gap isn't that obvious. But maybe if we put in a higher high here, that would be good. Because then that would mean that this gap is decent. Is it big? It's 4 points, so it's okay. We got 2 more minutes left of the 2 o'clock candle, and then it'll be 3 o'clock. Maybe we can get a sweep of previous hourly high, and then we can see shorts. Just need a 105 tick trade to pass 3 evals. Okay, we'll try and get that done. IDK. Maybe 0 days are good here. If the IV isn't too crazy, we could see like the 0 day put options work, like 523 or something. Yeah, 523s are very cheap. Premiums are pretty low right now. Yeah, they're only $70 a con, so we'll see. Am I using the indicator? I'm not, but I can throw it on just for fun. So let's see. I don't think the indicator is going to alert this one because I think technically the medium to large IFVG filter is going to get rid of that one. Am I taking this? No. Momentum isn't there. And bias isn't confirmed. So, nah. We got this, this next, hourly candle coming up in 20 seconds here. You got the same settings as Dodgy? I don't know if I do. I have to go look at his video. But yeah, I will make them the same as his. Where's that video at? Is it just in the pinned comments, I'm guessing, of the IFVG indicator? Or, yeah, IFVG indicator chat? Yeah, YouTube video summarizing indicator settings. Okay, here we go. Cool. I'll take a look at that after. Is the 1 minute good? Not really, because it's not as significant for value gap, so it doesn't really tell us a whole lot about delivery. It can be if we make a higher high here. And then, honestly, we still have this 4 hour BPR above. We took it on ES, but it would be even better if we got it on both. And yeah, I think if we got the short prior to us hitting previous hourly high, that would be bad, because that would be like shorting with conflicting draws. So probably just going to wait for that. And yeah, maybe we get a short today. I'm not really going to force anything, though, if I don't really like it. This PA isn't that good, so it's got to be decent. All right, so price coming up here. We have an SMT at the high. ES just made a higher high here. So far, delivery has not been confirmed any which way. Bearish. Can we get it? Would a sweep of that woman in high not confirm delivery, or does it have to close? No, delivery's still bullish. Like right now, the only way that delivery would switch bearish is if we made like a higher high out of this gap and then we inverse that to the downside. Then this gap would have some significance because it's a gap that made a higher high, and then we swept out previous hourly high, so there really shouldn't be any conflicting draws other than the 4 hour above. But because we have an SMT with that 4 hour, it's a less significant draw now. So if we get a death candle or a bearish reaction off of sweeping previous hourly high, we should just see shorts work from there, considering there isn't really any roadblocks in the way until we get to that 15-minute SIBI or 15-minute BISI. And so it would be especially good if we hit that 4 hour above, because then we could say like, okay, now that we've hit this 4 hour, we can expect price to go from inefficiency to inefficiency and hit that 15-minute gap below us, which will be definitely good enough for us to probably break even and take a partial at before trying to target the next target, which is previous hourly low, which would probably be where I'd final TP. So yeah, I'm just chilling for now, just still waiting. One of the things I talked about this morning with Tanya was, talking about the different macro times and why I have them denoted as such. And the reason why I have 3 o'clock to 3:15 not marked as a macro time when other people will just say like all of power hour is because usually this time is where we'll see conflicting draws, and price will not actually want to start delivering somewhere until those conflicting draws have been addressed. And usually that conflicting draw is just previous hourly high or whatever, but sometimes it's stuff like this unfilled 4 hour or whatever, and then sometimes it takes all the way up until 3:50 for that to be addressed. So are your PM live streams on the live stream section of this Discord? I feel like going through your old ones would be a good shout. Yeah, so all of my live streams that I have recorded for PM session are in the PM videos channel, and those are up to date. You 1v1 Tanya? No, different Tanya. This Tanya. Okay, so previous hourly high has been hit. So now I just want to see the 4 hour here. If we don't get it, great. If we do, even better. All right, so kind of a bearish reaction here to previous hourly high. You still have that SMT with the 4-hour gap here intact, so we'll see. Obviously, if we close over that high that I have marked there as our high for an SMT, then I'll assume we'll just go to that 4-hour. So yeah, we got that close above. I'd assume we'd go for the 4-hour now. And then after that, we can probably look for a short if we get a good obvious gap here. So far, not really one that I'm loving. The only one really present is that 1 minute, so I guess that'll have to do. Good death candle here. It's so tough because, like, we could definitely get better setups. Subjectively, this is probably, I mean, momentum, time, model, bias. Subjectively, like, this is fine. It's just a more obvious gap is going to be higher probability in the long run here. I think they do, TB, because inefficiencies get treated a lot in the same way as like liquidity does. So if we balance one inefficiency on one indice but not the other, then it's kind of like taking liquidity on one indice but not the other. So that's kind of my thoughts around it. But like, I think I'd still rather see the 4-hour get hit here just because it's a conflicting draw on NQ. But like, all I really need is the 1-hour previous hourly high to be swept, and like, this is decent momentum. So I think if we do end up inversing that 1 minute gap, we'll probably see price go to that next inefficiency, which is the 15-minute below, and then we'll kind of go from there. We're not delivering from anything. Not in the sense of like a for value gap, not really, but we are delivering from like the 15-minute on ES, or sorry, not 15-minute, 4-hour on ES. So like yes and no. Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense, you know, with the equal lows below, but I feel like you have to go break even at those equal lows because these equal lows are lows inside of a 30-second gap, right? This 30-second here, so it's just, I feel like this is a scenario where like this trade probably gets break even most of the time. Which is why I'm saying like it's not like the greatest trade in the world. Like you might get lucky some of the time and see this trade end up work out. But yeah, no inverse there. So gotta wait for that next candle. I feel like also this trade goes invalid sometimes too. Like if we just like continue to sell off hard and we just hit the equal lows before the close, like that could be definitely what happens. If the close is too close to the equal lows, I probably just won't take it. But yeah, maybe here, if we get good enough momentum up, we can get a 1 minute gap and we can hit the 4-hour and then inverse that gap. And like that, I would be probably, I'd feel better about it. Just something that's a little bit more obvious. Yeah. It's just basically right where the 4-hour bearish gap opens. That's what the line is. Right, so that bearish unbalanced PPR, that still needs to be addressed. Tammy, I would prefer that, but if that doesn't happen, like I don't think this is like the worst short, other than the fact that like the price conditions still aren't that great, right? We're not really we're struggling to form 1 minute fair value gaps here. I mean, the last one prior to this one that we formed here was at 1421, so we're averaging 1 minute fair value gap for every 30 minutes, and like momentum here isn't that great. Like PA here just isn't that great. So like that's my issue with like trying to take a trade right now, where we're fading a conflicting draw. It's just if price action was better, I could see wanting to take this trade because I feel like the break even is more realistic. But when we're chopping like this, I feel like it's more difficult to get to that break even, and so it might make more sense for this trade to be more high probable if we hit that unfilled 4 hour first. And then obviously, we're also still delivering bullish here, so there's no reason to become bearish yet. Yeah. Yeah, Bethan. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the 1 minute here to determine delivery, right? We actually price made a higher high out of the 1 minute here, so like it's not horrible. I just think overall the price conditions themselves aren't that good because we're struggling to form 1 minute for value gaps. So that's more so the issue with this trade if there was a problem. What time do I stop looking for trades in PM? Usually like 3:55. I mean, I don't really think we'll get something past 3:55 most days. Okay. So let's evaluate one more time here. Model not there. I mean, this is choppy, right? This is not V-shaped, so no model. Time, we're almost there. We got a minute and a half before like I think the macro starts, but technically time isn't really that important as long as we're in 3 o'clock and we've gotten that previous hourly high swept. So time, sure, we can say it's there. Momentum, not really there if we're being honest. I mean, if we get the close here, it'll be just about 5 points per minute, but like the momentum, like is this good momentum? Probably not. And then bias will be confirmed once we get that. So all we have here going on this trade is essentially bias and time, which isn't enough to take a trade. We need either model or momentum here or something, like a death candle or another sweep of the highs. Like we just need something else. So I don't think I'll take this trade if we get it. We either need a death candle or a better model. Yeah, in the PM chat, Swig. If you look under the pinned messages, you'll see it. All right, so we might get the 1 minute here. I guess we'll see. It's not really my condition that I'm looking for. I mean, we just didn't get the momentum here. We didn't get the model here. So it's like an A setup. It's probably a good eval short, but not something I'm going to take, unfortunately. And like, that's okay. You know, we don't need a trade every single day. It's just, I'm not going to force a lower quality setup if I don't have to. Right? This momentum is just not good. Still no close below there. For sure, Zebby. Who's still going to take this? Okay. Well, we might get it right here. I mean, pretty bad close below. Usually when that close below is only a tick, I would prefer taking those trades. So, I don't know. We'll see. Almost failed there in that first candle. Still technically valid, but not a great reaction. I don't know what just happened, but I feel like my voice is going out on me. Oh yeah, Fahrenheit. Okay, okay. So 1 minute still valid. Looks like we're gonna get the break even here, maybe. So yeah, I'd go break even there if you're in this 1 minute. And then I guess we'll see if it's a break even trade. Would have been a break even trade for me, I feel like. I mean, yeah. So just like a trade that, like I said, is going to be a break even trade like almost every time. Really close to that, break even target that we have. And I feel like you have to go break even there because if you don't, you can see what happens. It instantly fails. But the reason why is because this is a low instead of a 30-second. So we're only bearish until that next liquidity point. And then once that's swept, we have to gauge that reaction of that liquidity point to determine if we're still bearish. And clearly that was a pretty soup reaction in hindsight. So obviously not. We're clearly still bullish here. So you guys see why I don't even take that trade? Like why I don't even bother? It just doesn't meet the components that I need. I need 3, right? I need bias and then some combination of those last 3. And we just didn't get it. Oh yeah, trade boy. Yeah. So was this like, would you guys say the first valid setup we've gotten all session? Like this short? Like was there anything else that like maybe we could have taken? Because I don't really see nothing. I think this is just one of those days. 1450, 30-second. I'm probably not going to take that. Yeah, I'm probably just... Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, obviously not. I mean, the gap itself isn't obvious, so that's the problem. Was the 2-minute long before not valid? It was. It's just... It technically failed unless you included the 1-minute inception gap. And I just don't like it because it's not obvious, right? And obviously it's outside the macro, so misses that time component and the model. Nah, the one before, like way before, all the way down. Oh yeah, yeah, the 2-minute here, but we didn't sweep the low, so it's not a valid model. It's outside the macro at that point because we got the close at 14.12, and then the gap itself isn't obvious, so kind of the same issue. But I mean, yeah, that was probably the, like, if you could like point out an inverse, that was probably the best inverse. But subjectively, I still don't think it's very good. Oh yeah, trade boy. Okay. Is that your win rate since joining PM? How many trades have you taken? Oh, your new MFFU. Gotcha. All right, we got a 3-minute gap here. So we got another 2.5 minutes before this one forms, and then another 3 minutes after that before we get the inverse. You got only 2 trades, but only taking the best. Okay, cool. So there's that 4 hour. Got that taken care of now. So now if we get something that looks obvious here, that would be a whole lot better to take. Even a 5-minute gap here. I mean, that won't form for another 10 minutes, but this is the type of gap I'd be looking for to take as an inverse. But yeah, I'd probably base right now, I'd be watching the 3-minute. If that forms, then yeah, I mean, the 3-minute short there is probably the best. News? I don't think so. I think this was just us running the 4-hour BPR there. Got the 30-second. Nice Tambi. For me, that 30-second would have just been a invalid setup, so kind of the reason why I didn't take it, but very cool. Yeah, probably mad. Now I'd definitely be anticipating a short here. We have a 30-second here. We have a potential 1 minute that's forming, and then we have the 3-minute, which I think would be the best. But obviously, you know, the reason why this 30-second isn't as good is because we just have stacked fair value gaps below that, like this 2-minute gap, right? And so, unlike the 1-minute short we had earlier this morning, there's roadblocks in the way, and so taking this 30-second, you're not waiting for that confirmation of delivery. So this is kind of like one of those trades where you'll see unprofitable traders or people in the Discord that, you know, don't really understand IFVGs. They'll lose on it because it's that first 30-second V-shaped setup after we sweep liquidity. But the reason why it fails is because bias isn't confirmed bearish. All right. 1 minute, same idea as like that 30-second, right? I mean, actually, not the same idea. It's just not obvious. But yeah, 3 minutes, if it forms, is definitely the best. We got 30 more seconds though. 3 minute because it's singular. It's somewhat obvious. It would confirm bearish delivery since it's like kind of that last gap there. There's no real other roadblocks in the way. Maybe I guess this 30-second down here could be a roadblock for us, but I feel like that should get just pushed through since it's not really that significant. I mean, I guess it's a last gap in the leg, but it's not very obvious and it wasn't used to propel price higher. So I feel like if we do end up getting this 3 minute, we'll just run through that 30-second. No, Tambi, nah. This 30-second, not the long, the short here. I mean, I would never take this either, but that's a completely different story. Yeah, usually frontline. But like last week, we didn't have red folder every morning, and it was still really good. So I don't know. We did get that 3 minute gap now, so we'll kind of gauge what happens here in the next 3 minutes. But if we don't see that inverse, I mean, we could combine both of these 3 minute gaps into one big one. Yeah, me neither, Will. Me neither. Double three or single five? Probably the single five. But it depends on the close here. I'd probably go single three, though. I'm kind of hoping that happens. Single five, I don't know. We have that 3 minute that's lower than it, so we could see a scenario where the 5 inverses, but the 3 doesn't. And I feel like in this scenario, given just how choppy the PA is, it's probably better to wait for multiple time frame confirmation closes here. And then the other problem with the 5 is like you'll run into a scenario where like we'll get the 3 minute inverse at 3:33, but it'll still be another 2 minutes before the 5 inverses, and so we'll just be gone already because of that 3 minute. So yeah, because this 3 minute gap is so small now, I would just probably base it off the lower 3 minute here. No, TB, just based off of what NQ does here. So I'd be basing this trade off of NQ and not the MNQ chart. When's the next macro step? We're technically in it. It's just 315 to 345. So and then the last one is like 350 to 4 o'clock. Reason why 345 to 350 is left out is because usually we get manipulation before the 350 macro. So macro times are typically best used for phases of distribution, and so if a time typically is a manipulation time, then obviously distribution doesn't happen there. That's why we exclude it. Okay, good candle here. Got another 2.5 more minutes before the 3 minute candle closes. Good bearish candle there. Lots of momentum. I like to see that. Time is good. Model's good. Good V shape. Bias. Once we get that 3 minute inverse, bias should be confirmed. So yeah, I'd take this. What's the stop on it? I mean, if we include the inception gap here, which we'll probably get, 9 points, and we'd be targeting the 15. So at least 3R to our intended TP. You could maybe even take profit at the low there because that's 1R depending on the close. But yeah, I probably wouldn't TP until that 15-minute gap gets filled. So it'd kind of be the idea, but it's got to be like this candle. If it's like another candle from now, like that would be less than ideal. We got another minute and 20 seconds. Would be good here to see the 1 minute OB form. Don't gotta wait for multiple time frame confirmations anymore because we're starting to get good momentum and we've hit the 4 hour here and bias, momentum, and time all the lines, so we don't gotta wait for that additional component of the model here. But yeah, I really would like to see the candle close below in this candle. That way we get that nice 1 minute OB at the same time as the inverse. And if that doesn't happen, then we'll probably just have to keep waiting. I don't think I would... I mean, I guess you could take the 5 too, but I'd probably only take the 5 if we got the 1 minute OB to the downside as well. So no 3 minute there. Just hasn't confirmed bearish delivery yet. We've already kind of rejected from it twice there on the 3. But yeah, I wouldn't use the 2 because it's not singular or obvious. I mean, we have a 4 minute here. 4 minute closes in about 3 minutes. And the 5 obviously closes in a minute and a half. So keep an eye on both of those, I guess. 2 minute series. Probably not. Probably not. Want it to be a good model here too. But yeah, looks like we might get this 1 minute OB here. Would I take the 5? I think so, as long as we get the 1 minute OB for sure. Dang, no order block. Technically we close below the body, but not the wick. 2 minute here, no 2 minute inverse. So yeah, hopefully that 5 minute gives us the entry and we don't just run to the low. Let's see if the indicator is picking up on this. It should. So, depending on candle close here, looks like it's going to be about 11 points at risk. I guess there's the entry for the 5 minute. Break even would obviously be the low here. Should I wait for 3? I don't think so. I don't think you have to. I said that a couple different times because we have bias, momentum, and time all aligning, so you don't have to wait for that extra confirmation with the model. Did the indicator pick it up? I don't think so. So no indicator there. So maybe it's not a good trade after all. Yours did? Okay, cool. You got out for break even? Okay. Interesting. Let's take a look at the other time frames here. 3 minute inverse. 1, 2. Yeah, I mean, everything inverse, so should be good to go. Only reason why, I guess, maybe... No, we inverse that 30-second too, so yeah, this should just fall here. If it loses, it's probably because, I don't know, due for a loss, maybe? Model isn't perfect. I don't know. 15-second did an inverse? Okay, that's the reason why then. I don't know. 15-second really shouldn't matter. We should just sell off through it if we're truly bearish here, but... all good if not. Hopefully we get a good death candle here. We just fall through the previous low we just put in, hit the break even, make it nice and easy on us. So yeah, typically, like, I think the model mechanically states that if we put in a low and resweep it after the inverse, like, that's technically supposed to be your break-even point. So some people will go to break-even at this low here. I think since there's no roadblock in the way where this low is created, we should just dump through it and hit that next low. And then, like, your break-even would make sense because now it's, like, a little close. But yeah, some people will go break-even there, so... kind of up to you. Me personally, I'm still like just holding. So we'll see. Where's first TP? I have it at the 15-minute unfilled gap below. I think that makes sense. All right, so I'm going stop to break even there. And then target is probably just going to have it at 491 cents. That's a few ticks above where TP should actually be. And then, yeah, I'll probably hold some as a runner and kind of gauge that initial reaction when we get to the 15-minute. Is this A+? I think so. I mean, we're reacting off that 4-hour bearish gap. I mean, momentum, time, and the model all aligned, so I don't see why this wouldn't be A+. How did time align? Because the macro time of 3:15 to 3:45. So we got the inverse right at 3:30. I mean, overall power hour is just considered a macro time, but it's the end of day macro. I just have it denoted a little bit weirdly. So 315 to 345 is like that first step of the macro, and then second step is like 350. So if you're in a trade, you want to have the first half of the macro deliver you to your break-even target, and then hopefully 350 sends you to that second half. But obviously there for me, I just got stopped break-even. So that's probably going to be my one trade of the day. But that was like the first setup that I actually liked. So I mean, good thing to go break even there, I think, just because this was a low inside of that 30-second gap, so this is still holding. I think maybe once we break that, we will see price hit that unfilled 15-minute, but we won't know for sure when that happens. And so as long as we're respecting that, I don't necessarily want to stay in a trade where I could have price come against me because we're still holding that 30-second. So I guess how many of you took that for break even? Okay. Alrighty. Well, that's fine. Good patience today. That's about it. Better than the loss, right? Awesome, Tanya. Awesome. Appreciate it, EJ. Um, 30-second re-entry here. I don't necessarily know if I want to force another setup considering, or I guess 1 minute's actually cleaner. 1 minute re-entry. I think overall, since price is still holding that 30-second, I don't really want to mess around until after that breaks. But yeah, maybe once that breaks, we could see that 15-minute get put in. Am I still holding? No, I got break even. Eco, if you're somehow still in the trade, stay in. But I got break even personally, so. Yep, will do, TB. Still in, don't know if you should get out. Yeah, so you should only get out if it comes back to your break even point. Where's your entry, Mad? Your entry should be like 516. Which the reason why I didn't scale is because I wasn't sure if price was 1-to-1 away to that low. If it was, that's a fine scale. I mean, a 1-to-1 trade is very good, but if it was less than 1-to-1, then that was probably. I mean, yeah, it's still fine. It was a little less than 1-to-1, but that's still acceptable. 0.9 is fine. 521. Yeah, you're good then. Just stay in. Just have your stop at break even. Try and target the 15-minute gap. Hope that this 30-second breaks here. I mean, that's what you're waiting for next. So I'm pretty sure the 1 minute just inverse there. So if you want to take this, like we have the model, not really because we don't get that liquidity sweep. Time, yes. Momentum, sure. Bias, I don't know. I don't know what the bias is until we inverse this 30 seconds. So this is probably an eval trade, not a funded trade. And then the 30-second short here, this feels like a short on the buy side of the curve, like based off an inverse on the buy side of the curve. So not something I'm ever going to take personally, but like I feel like this is the last roadblock, and once this breaks, we should just go to the 15-minute. So depending on the stop loss here and at what time this triggers. This could be interesting to see work out, right? Um, Obviously, if it triggers at 350, I definitely wouldn't take it because the 350 manipulation could knock you out before the trade works out. For sure, EJ. So I'll keep an eye on 350. If we don't really do a whole lot at 350, I'll probably wrap up stream. And if we hit this 15-minute, I'll wrap up there also. So kind of where I'm at right now, but pretty meh stream. I mean, I'm glad we got some education in because clearly the trades just weren't coming through. But good patience today. Good job waiting for what we wanted, and obviously we kind of got it, but it just wasn't as textbook as we probably needed. You know, the overall market conditions probably prevented us from seeing, you know, our full trade play out there. So maybe tomorrow we'll see better price action, and then we might be able to see our trade end up playing out. What's the payout rules and alpha futures? I don't know. That's a good question for Exano, though. I think he knows more about them than I do. All right, so here's 350. What are my thoughts on the short? I took it. I thought it was good, Dapper. Oh, 15-second. I'm just kidding. But yeah, wow, 350 is kind of sucking. Can we pick a direction, please? All right, I think I'm gonna give up on the day here. Um, Overall, just not really anything else for us to talk about. So I think that was a pretty all right stream. Um, I guess I'll catch all of you guys for PM tomorrow. Oh wait, I have a question. With that short, should you set runners there or no? Yeah, you can for sure.
Just gauge that reaction around 50% Dapper, and if we start to create bearish PD arrays around 50% and respect them, or start to sell off through 50%, then you can hold runners to complete the sell model. But yeah, I wouldn't hold anything more than a runner at 50 there. I would be all out besides that. Yeah, for sure. Alrighty. I'm going to wrap up here. Wait, actually, if this 15-second goes invalid. I mean, it didn't. I mean, I'm not going to enter a 15-second, but there's the 15-second. Let's see. Okay, there's the break even. Would it end up being a break even trade? No chance, right? No way. Just come back break even so I can get off. All right. That's going to be it. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace out.